Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Universal is absolutely crushing Disney in animation, and they've been doing it now for 3 years straight. 1 year is one thing, 2 years is kind of another thing because there could be schedule conflicts with big releases, but 3 years really tells you that something is deeply wrong in Disney animation. I do think we already knew this. This is making it pretty clear. It's a lot more than just Marvel has problems, Star Wars has problems, Pixar has problems. It's all of Disney's creative and business operations. They should not be losing out to Universal. The Universal people are very capable. Minions is great, but I mean, come on. Disney has more resources and more history than any other company in animation. There's really no excuse for it. But let's see why it's actually happening. This is coming from Yahoo Entertainment, also The Wrap. Before we get into the article, be sure you're subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. You guys are great. The channel's growing, and I really appreciate you. How Disney Animation lost the box office crown to Universal for 3 straight years with no turnaround in sight. Is it Bob Chapek's fault? Is it Bob Iger's fault? Yes, it's both their faults. Disney, the once undisputed king of animated movies, has lost the box office race to arch-rival Universal Pictures for the last 3 years in a row, and there's no sign of magical turnaround on the horizon. From Pixar's Onward, which opened to a disappointing $39 million in March 2020, to Walt Disney Animation's Strange World, which barely cracked $25.5 million in its first 12 days of domestic release, Disney theatrically released animated films have grossed just over $1 billion worldwide. $1 billion is a lot, but how many movies did it take to get? Meanwhile, in that same period, with the same burdens of COVID and on much lower production budgets, Universal's combined theatrical output from its Illumination and DreamWorks animation studios have earned $2 billion worldwide from a series of animated hits like Trolls World Tour, The Croods: A New Age, Spirit Untamed, The Boss Baby Family Business, Sing 2, The Bad Guys, and Minions: The Rise of Gru. NBC Universal Jeff Shell on Monday trumpeted his studio's achievement. I honestly think that not only are we challenging Disney Animation, but I would take our animation business over theirs right now, he said in a conference call with investors. We have an animation system now that rivals, if not surpasses, Disney. And I'll tell you, I don't blame him. Results don't lie, and they're not ruining their franchises. You know, lots of sequels here, lots of sequels, and lots of interest in these films, and a lot of box office success. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Is Disney managing their franchises as well as Universal is? Doesn't seem like. And Universal is following Disney's costly Strange World flop with this month's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which has scored rave reviews, 93% fresh, and 8.3 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes, and is tracking for a $20 million opening weekend and a healthy run through the holiday season. The contrast in box office performance has been stark. Disney's Encanto at $256 million earned 1/3 less in late 2021, early 2022 than Universal's Sing 2 at $407 million, while Disney's Pixar's Lightyear did $226 million, eventually earned less than both of the Universal animated films. From this spring and summer, Illumination's Minions: The Rise of Gru did $937 million, and DreamWorks Animation's The Bad Guys did $250 million. And Disney can't even blame the pandemic conditions for the deficit, since every studio faced the same issues with families reluctant to return to theaters and hybrid theatrical streaming releases. Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon grossed under $160 million in early 2021 amid a hybrid release in theaters and also on Disney Plus for an extra $30. Months after Universal and DreamWorks' The Croods: A New Era legged out to $216 million under similar circumstances. However, even Paramount's Paw Patrol movie earned $145 million in theaters while being concurrently available at no charge for subscribers on Paramount Plus. Is Disney's streaming strategy to blame? You know, it is funny, and people do say this in the comments below. I'll say it right now. Perhaps Disney's movies are a little too political. There's a little bit too much woke progressive messaging in them. Perhaps not everyone wants to see that in all their movies. And also, it's a possibility that when you're so desperate to try to show representation, it interferes with storytelling. Because when you're telling stories about people, that applies to everyone. It doesn't matter what skin color you are or what country you come from. Let me know if you agree with that or disagree with that in the comments below. Recently bounced Disney CEO Bob Chapek was willing to trade box office revenue and new theatrical franchises for streaming gains, sending animated features like Soul, Luca, and Turning Red straight to Disney Plus in most territories, including the US. Now, this wasn't just Bob Chapek's strategy. It's not completely Bob Chapek's fault. It certainly was like Bob Iger's strategy as well. However, it did not work. This was at a time when much live-action production had stalled due to the pandemic, and Wall Street was all but forcing entertainment companies to mimic Netflix. Universal animated titles are all theatrical propositions, and that's really clear to the consumer. An individual with knowledge of the animation space told The Wrap. Disney has muddied the brand so the consumer doesn't know what film is going where. Well, in all fairness, Disney doesn't know what film is going where. A lot of these are last-minute decisions. It is quite a mess. And of course, where is this all going to wind up business-wise? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I think everyone's going to follow what David Zaslav has been saying, because it's not like Zaslav knows everything. He just did the homework. He knows what works. Of course, your big theatrical productions with your big budgets are supposed to go to theaters. Create interest in it, hopefully make a big profit on it, hopefully at least break even. If you didn't make a big profit, you're not going to win on every movie. And then you put it on your streaming service and sell it other places. Every major studio had to readjust due to the COVID-19 pandemic, with Sony and Paramount leasing or selling many theatrical intended films to streaming platforms, and Warner Brothers, quote, Project Popcorn offering the studio's entire 2021 theatrical slate in theaters and on HBO Max simultaneously. By 2022, though, Warner Brothers had reverted to a 45-day theatrical window, and Sony was offering longer windows for titles like Spider-Man No Way Home and Lyle Lyle Crocodile. When Wall Street was judging these companies based on streaming subscriptions, it made sense to drop top movies on the services. Screen Media founder and chief analyst Colin Dixon told The Wrap. But now that Wall Street has reverted to judging the bottom line, real profits and losses, there's no such incentive to undercut theatrical and considerable post-theatrical revenue opportunities for the sake of subscription gains. Especially because it doesn't always work, because subscribers churn. They sign up and then they drop the service. According to one rival studio executive, Disney, quote, hurt their AAA perfect brand, end quote, by shuffling so many big screen titles to streaming services and not recommitting to theatrical releases sooner. Audiences used to see the Pixar logo in a theater. They knew they were seeing the best of that theatrical animation. The insider said, instead, the Disney Plus strategy has merely trained people to know they can just watch it at home. You know, it's amazing, but when you put out Buzz Lightyear and it wasn't a woke brand to begin with, and then you have to woke it up to satisfy people at the company, it's not going to satisfy audiences. It's tempting to blame Disney's animation woes on Chapek's focus on Disney Plus, but part of the problem is the studio's failure to greenlight more successful sequels or to launch a new animated franchise. There isn't going to be a Strange World 2? Oh, I guess not. Josh Spiegel, the author of Pixar and the Infinite Past, Nostalgia and Pixar Animation, noted that the studio released 5 Pixar sequels and 2 Walt Disney animated sequels between 2013 and 2019, including mega blockbusters like 2019's Frozen 2, but only since then. The Toy Story spin-off Lightyear that whiffed at the box office this past summer didn't do well. Disney spent a decade selling nostalgia for itself, Spiegel said, and by 2020 they were already running out of IP, which might justify that nostalgia. However, Disney's not entirely alone here. No original animated film has cracked $300 million worldwide since Walt Disney and Pixar's Oscar-winning Coco in late 2017. The major studio tunes in 2018 were IP-driven titles like The Grinch or sequels like Hotel Transylvania 3. A slew of non-sequel and or original tunes that landed in 2019 stumbled badly at box offices. Paramount's Wonder Park only did $120 million, DreamWorks' Abominable $176 million, and Blue Sky's Spies in Disguise only $179 million. Disney's recent struggles with non-sequel animated features may partially be a case of Disney arriving late to an in-progress problem. Animation may be becoming as beholden to established franchises, like Despicable Me 4, brand-specific nostalgia, like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and marquee characters, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, as with many other theatrical genres. If Disney knew what they were doing, and this is absolutely Iger's fault, before Sony was into doing their own Spider-Man animated films, Disney should have been able to grab that up. There's really no excuse for that. They could have squeezed it out of Sony. And what a huge hit they would have had. They could have had other animated Marvel movies. I have no idea why they didn't go high quality, big budget, animated Marvel film. If anybody knows, please fill me in. I'm sure there's been talk about it before. I just haven't seen it. Animation rivalries can lead to more than one winner. This is not the first time Disney has fallen to second place in market share in the animation game. Jeffrey Katzenberg's DreamWorks Animation arrived with a bang in 1998 with Ants and Prince of Egypt. The House of Mouse and the House of Shrek duked it out for supremacy throughout the 2000s, trading annual market share victories amid a slowly expanding global marketplace. Disney soared with Pixar originals like Ratatouille, Wall-E, Up, and Brave, while Disney's in-house animation division was a post-Katzenberg commercial slump. Meanwhile, DWA offered a brand new franchises at a time when most theatrical animated were one-and-done propositions. Shrek, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, and How to Train Your Dragon were all hits that produced successful big-screen follow-ups, a strategy that Disney would only periodically pursue until the late 2010s. And Pixar did not want to do a lot of sequels. Steve Jobs did not want sequels. But they got sequels. Both animation giants were winning. Disney eventually pulled ahead thanks to big-budget animated films becoming less of an automatic theatrical event, and as DWA's distribution was handed over to Fox. Soon, Disney began embracing its roots as a purveyor of female-led fairy tale fantasy adventures like Tangled, Frozen, and Moana. Simplistically speaking, Disney stopped chasing boys with Pirates of the Caribbean knockoffs and started chasing girls with variations on Snow White. Disney now houses a beefed-up rival in Universal, which owns Illumination, as well as DreamWorks Animation, which it purchased from Katzenberg in 2016 for $3.8 billion. Disney isn't giving up on theatrical animation. One of the other lessons of Disney's shift into streaming is that box office performance doesn't automatically detract from at-home viewership. This summer, big screen hit Thor: Love and Thunder, $760 million worldwide, which was pretty good. And the flop, Lightyear, at $226 million worldwide, both registered over 1 billion minutes on Nielsen in their respective opening weekends on Disney+. And there are increasing signs that even a token theatrical release can boost awareness for a project. Well, of course. The theatrical launch for Encanto was the main driver behind its off-the-charts engagement on Disney+, one studio insider told The Wrap. It subsequently exploded in the music, merchandise, and live entertainment space, becoming a fixture in the cultural zeitgeist throughout 2022. Encanto may not be a new blockbuster franchise by almost every metric except theatrical box office. It certainly has a bigger pop culture impact than 2011's Cars 2 or 2013's Monster University. And there's arguably more audience enthusiasm for a sequel based on newer source material. Many express hopes that Disney's new leadership will focus on rebuilding its legacy in animation. Quote, hopefully with Bob Iger back at the helm, a renewed emphasis on the theatrical release of Disney's animated fare will help to return these films to prominence, Comscore's senior media analyst Paul Denegarbarian said. Market share victory will likely not return to Walt Disney next year, as the studio's two major animated releases are both non-sequel originals. Pixar's Elementals is currently slated for June 16, 2023, and Walt Disney's Wish on November 22, 2023. Meanwhile, Universal is doubling down on familiar franchises with Despicable Me 4 and the Super Mario Bros. Movie from Illumination and Trolls 3 from DreamWorks Animation. I think you can probably bet on year 4 working out for Universal. Let me know what you think of that in the comments below. A representative for Disney defended its animation slate. Both Walt Disney Animation Studios and Pixar films definitely take time to produce between sequels, but in doing so, it allows new IP to be generated while also releasing sequels to well-established and successful films, the rep told The Wrap. Films like Frozen, Cars, The Incredibles, Toy Story, Zootopia, Wreck-It Ralph, Finding Dory, and more were new IP introduced to audiences in theaters, and they all went on to become some of the highest grossing and most popular franchises across the company today. But none of those films were presented in a way, maybe except for Frozen, that this is progressive messaging rather than a good story with compelling visuals and interesting characters. That's how you build brands. You have to have a unique story. Representation obviously doesn't create brands. It destroys brands. Look at what they're doing to Marvel. All right, let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Really love to know what you guys have to say. Agree, disagree, whatever you think. Be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.